Hi everyone, we'll just wait a couple minutes for a few more people to jump on before we begin. All right, welcome to our webinar on shifts in Microsoft Teams. I'm Lauren, the marketing manager here at Engage Squared, and I just wanted to say a big thank you to everyone attending our session. It means a great deal to us that you're here, and I'm hoping you learned something new and that you're able to take some valuable things away with you today. Now, before we start, I just want to run through some housekeeping items for this session. The webinar is being recorded and we'll be sending the recording and slide deck to you afterwards. And if you do have any questions or would like to contribute to the discussion at all, we invite you to do so. As you can see, you can add your questions or comments into the Q&A chat window and we'll address them throughout the session where both Ruby and our special guest, Dennis from Microsoft, will both be answering your questions. Next slide, please. To give you a bit of background on us, our mission at Engage Squared is to bring people and technology together to drive secure digital productivity. And for those of you who don't know, we specialize in using Microsoft services that promote organization-wide team or event-specific communication and collaboration. In particular, Yammer, SharePoint, Power Apps, and Microsoft Teams. We use our knowledge and understanding of M365 technologies and extensive IP to provide services that are tailored to the unique needs of specific clientele. We've been delivering these sorts of services for more than 5 years and have been awarded the Advanced Specialization in Adoption and Change Management and Microsoft Preferred Partners for Business Applications. I'd now like to introduce Dennis from Microsoft, who will give you a bit of background on himself.
Thanks, Lauren. My name's Dennis Hawkins, as Lauren said. I'm a customer success manager with Microsoft and work with Engage Squared and a number of the enterprise clients when it comes to using Teams and adopting Teams across organisations, but also in this current COVID world, working out different ways of being able to catering for remote working and also the current scenario of what a return to office world may look like in terms of how people can be productive and also remaining safe. On that note, I'd like to hand over to Ruby, who's probably going to be the most important person talking today.
Ruby, sorry, you're on mute.
Sorry, every Teams call has to start with someone on mute. Thank you, Dennis, Lauren. Hello, everyone. My name is Ruby Bailey, and I will be talking to you today about shifts in Teams. I am a client engagement manager at Engage Squared, looking after and managing some of our key accounts. I've been working here for just over a year now, originally having worked in our London office for 2 years. I have managed the implementation of many M365 initiatives over the course of this time and have been working during the COVID-19 pandemic to deliver our projects and roll out solutions quickly to ensure that our clients could continue to work effectively and collaboratively. This has meant ramped up Teams rollouts, fast-track solution builds, enhanced Teams meeting training programs, all under immense pressure as our clients' workforces transition to working from home. I love using Teams and being able to be part of so many different Teams initiatives, and now I'm being asked by our clients to start helping them have a think about how we can leverage Teams to support them in their return to the office. One of the key challenges we see facing our clients as they return back to the office is the need to manage and limit workforce numbers across their office locations. This is going to continue for a certain amount of time, and the requirement has created what is effectively an additional burden on organisational leaders, particularly those who are in people management roles or facilities. So under our return to work offering, we are providing consultancy services to our clients, and one of those offerings is Shifts in Teams. So during this session, I'm going to talk to you about common client challenges, how Shifts can support your organisation's return to the office. I'm then going to run you through a demo of Shifts so you can get an idea of how it can potentially support your organisation from both a manager and employee user experience. We'll then cover off some recommended additional configurational options, bots, workflows, etc., and how we at Engage Squared will support you in implementing and managing Shifts. Lastly, we'll reserve around 5 minutes towards the end, as Lauren said, for a Q&A with myself and Dennis. So just a quick slide here to say that I'm not going to be talking through Teams functionality today. I'm kind of assuming most people on the call are already using Teams or have a general understanding of what it is and how it works. However, just for some context, in case there is anyone on the call who isn't overly familiar with Teams, it is a communication and collaboration platform from which you can chat with your colleagues and guest users, host video calls and meetings, store and share files, as well as integrate and leverage other applications from. If you do want to find out more about Teams and how we can support you implement or potentially increase user adoption, feel free to reach out to myself and the team after the webinar. Cool, so the reason for me talking to you today about Shifts is that we have identified some key challenges and questions that our clients will need to take into consideration when their workforce returns to the office. How will they know where their employees are? Are they working in the office, from home, or somewhere else? If there was a case of COVID, would our clients know who of their employees had been in contact with and whether that was in the office or not? Can they therefore ensure that they are following OHS and social distancing requirements? Do their employees know where their colleagues are each day so that they can best plan their work day? And do they know when they can be in the office so that their attendance doesn't exceed the office maximum capacity? Do they know where they are or not allowed to physically work from in terms of desks or other workspaces? And lastly, there's also the question of whether they are able to use meeting rooms. Will this impact their ability to work effectively with their colleagues who are working both from the office and from home? So what's the reality? What we're seeing is that our clients are feeling like they've had not enough time to properly prepare and respond to this challenge, which is completely understandable given how suddenly we were all required to work from home. We do now, however, have some time to properly start thinking about and planning how we manage our workforce's return to the office. Given that organisations have felt unprepared and rushed, they might have not had the opportunity to research and find out what sort of solutions are out there. They might be feeling a bit stressed and exhausted because of the level and intensity at which they've had to roll out the solutions such as Teams. And we've had a few clients approach us assuming that it's going to potentially cost them, a fortune to get a new application up and running with those additional costs related to training. Many of our clients already have Teams and aren't necessarily aware of its other capabilities that can support them. And as I've said previously, due to the rushed nature of rollout, they might have not had a chance to implement proper governance or communicate the change to users fully. We do also have some clients who are considering implementing Teams or in the process of doing so, and so they are not yet anyway in the position to utilise Teams and realise its full potential. And we have the sort of worst case scenario. It's a very real possibility that an organisation may have a case of COVID in the office. Without proper procedures and processes in place, the impact of this could be very disruptive and costly to your organisation. So what's the solution? We know that Shifts in Teams can help organisations to overcome these challenges in several different ways. It gives managers and team leaders a holistic view of their employees' schedule and location so that they can plan and ensure their offices are meeting OHS requirements, social distancing regulations, and any other sorts of HR requirements you might have. It enables managers to plan schedules in draft mode with multiple views, making it easy to coordinate and manage multiple locations and employees at the same time. Shifts also supports employees plan where they will be working from that day, without the fear of exceeding the number of people allowed into the office on any given day. Shifts also gives teams visibility of their colleagues' whereabouts, and if set up to complement it, meeting room availability, allowing them to plan meetings effectively and empowering that team collaboration. Lastly, it also supports the implementation of an efficient process for the scheduling of changes to shifts that can be tailored to meet your organisation's business process. So as you're all probably aware, Shifts is a built-in schedule management tool which creates, updates and manages your team schedules. It works across Teams mobile, desktop and web clients, but it's important to note here that it doesn't currently support guest users. So even if a guest is in a team, they can't be added to or use the shift schedule which relates to that team. The key features that I will be running you through shortly are the ability to create schedules from scratch or import existing schedules from Excel, which obviously gives you that kind of flexibility to work with any current schedules that you may already have in place. The ability to export and copy schedules, which is definitely going to be helpful if you're going to have a consistent but alternating roster over the next few months. The ability to share these schedules with each team so that they can view available shifts and assign themselves to them. That kind of functionality reduces any additional overhead you might expect to typically see from team managers, facilities departments, etc. So they're not actually physically having to go in and assign shifts to what's potentially thousands of employees. Team owners can add notes to the shifts, which will be visible to the team and remind them of any safety guidelines or advice you wish them to follow. And you can also group these schedules by team names or business units. We're probably going to want to start thinking about naming them in terms of, office locations or addresses. There's also a request feature to manage annual leave and shift allocation, as well as the ability to enable employees to clock in and out of their shift. And here as well, we can turn on location services, so you know where your employees have clocked in that day. Lastly, it's available in the mobile app, so both managers and employees can view and manage schedules remotely. Great, so Shifts comes with every team's license at no extra cost. So if you have teams, you have Shifts. It's enabled by default for all team users in your organisation. You can, however, manage access at an organisational level on the Manage Apps page in the Microsoft Teams Admin Centre. Cool, so once it's confirmed that Shifts is enabled, and if your organisation has decided they're going to implement Shifts as their workforce management tool, you can access it by going to the app bar on the left and clicking on the ellipses. This will open a menu of apps from which you can open Shifts. Users have the ability to pin Shifts to the app bar by right-clicking click and selecting pin. Your admins can actually pin Shifts for the whole organisation and in the mobile app as well via the Microsoft Teams Admin Centre. I'd probably recommend doing this so that you're proactively driving awareness and adoption of the app by having it visible to users at all times. It's also worth noting that you can pin any application here, whether that's Microsoft or third party. So if there are any other apps that you think your organisation is going to benefit from to support your return to work, then that's definitely something to consider. Cool. So just before I jump into the demo, I don't know if we had any questions yet, Lauren, that was worth diving into, or just get straight into it.
No questions just yet.
Cool. So I'm going to run you through the team owner experience of Shifts first. And for reference, when I refer to team owner as they are the users who have created the team or have been assigned as team owners and therefore have permissions to create schedules, you can assume I'm also referring to office managers, team leaders, facilities departments, etc. And when I refer to Shifts, you can assume that I'm referring to actual physical workspaces. Cool. So firstly, you need to have a team that will manage the scheduling and updates. And you can do this either from scratch or by utilising an existing team. We're hearing of organisations creating teams specifically for their return to work, and this is certainly a good option. If this is something that you want to take, you will need to add the right employees to that team, either individually or by pulling them through via distribution lists. Via distribution list is obviously going to help ensure that you're inviting the correct employees to the team and not missing anyone out. Once you've created the team, you can assign other employees as team owners, and they will therefore be able to manage schedules and the team generally going forward. You can do this here when you're currently setting up, or from the manage team in the ellipses over here. If you already have a team that represents your office or the location of your office, maybe one that's actively engaged with by employees, then it's definitely worth utilising this for your consistency of messaging related to that location. So once you have your team and you have the right users in it, you are ready to go to shifts. Here you click on which team you would like to create a schedule for. So I'll click on the Melbourne office, confirm my time zone and closest city. And this is now going to take me to the schedule view where I can start to create my team schedule. So as you can see, this is my schedule related to the Melbourne office. Now, if you do have a larger company that, for example, has maybe a couple of floors in the office, you can create several groups to reflect this. So it's very clear when you're sharing the schedule as to which area of the office the schedule relates. So I'm going to go to the next week and start adding in some shifts. Go to the ellipses, add open shift, ensuring that I've selected and that the green button says open shift. Depending on the size of your office and social distancing regulations will depend on how many slots or seats you want to select. If you're only allowed 10 people in the office, for example, you're going to want to select 10 here. Select the right date and time, noting that you can forfeit entering a date and time. And in fact, I'd probably actually recommend doing this because if your employees are not shift workers, something like in the office or working from home is going to be much more suitable. Add any relevant and important notes for your employees here. You might want to include, make sure you've wiped down surfaces or ticked off the cleaning list. And you can actually add those activities to be completed on the shift as well. And that can be reflected here. And you can obviously put in whichever time you like. You also have the option to select a theme colour for each team just to help organise the schedule a little bit further. It's worth noting here that you can actually detail workspaces much more granularly, which is certainly helpful for organisations that have larger working spaces. For example, if your office has meeting rooms or distinct areas and designated working spaces, you can create a shift that says meeting room 2 or table 6. It's worth thinking about physical signage and the labelling of working areas in your office, as this is a great way to support the management of your workspaces and will also complement the way in which shifts can help you manage them. Now that the shifts have been created, we can assign users to the shift or we can share them with the team. And because we've created open shifts, they will be able to assign themselves. All members from the team are available for the shift. And when it is assigned, it will then appear in the employee's schedule. As you can see here, the number of available spaces has gone from 10 to 9. So we know that we can only have another 9 people working from the office on this day. As employees will have the option to assign themselves to the open shift, you may want to have this on either maybe something like a first come first served basis or distribute some guidelines and comms to guide this process. You can also copy the schedule here, selecting which dates you'd like to copy and to which date range. After you've copied the schedule, you're going to want to share this with the team. You can see that that's copied over to the next week, and you can have a month view as well. So I'll share this with the team. You can see how many shifts there are and choose who will receive a notification. You can also import and import any existing schedules and export the schedule into an Excel. It's just going to download and you can store or share it in accordance with your requirements. You can change the view as well by clicking here, viewing it by people, shifts, or your team shifts. Cool. So when an employee makes a request, team owners can review and manage this in the Request tab. The team owners will receive a notification to approve or deny the shift, and this may be a little cumbersome for some teams, and so you might want to look at automating this approval process through Power Automate, which I'll actually cover off towards the end of this session. As a Teams owner, you can also configure shifts further under the Settings tab. You can configure the copying of shifts and the list of request types for time off by adding, editing, or removing these categories, changing the icons, etc. If you already have a HR system that manages those sorts of requests, you may want to remove some of these categories entirely and just leave categories that relate to the actual shifts you want to offer, i.e. working from home or being in the office. Down at the bottom, we also have the option to set up time tracking and reporting through the use of time clock. You may want to set this up depending on your requirements, but if you're not using shifts to manage actual shift workers and you're not wanting to track when employees are arriving and leaving the office, it may not be necessary for you to enable. It does, however, come with optional location detection, which would provide additional helpful information if there ever was a COVID breakout in the office. Great, so that's the overview of the team owner's view. Let's take a look at the employee view. So employees can view their schedule and number of available spaces at the office on their desktop, web and mobile clients. As an employee, I should have already been added to a team that represents my office by a team owner. I'll then be able to click on shifts, which has been pinned here, maybe at the organisational level, and it will take me to the team schedule. If I am, for whatever reason, part of more than one team schedule, I can view them in the top left waffle here as well. So when you get to the right calendar view, you're presented with then a view of available shifts and can click on these to request to work it. Once the request is made, it is displayed in the Request tab, and from here you're able to see the status of your requests and cancel if you need to. Once the request has been approved by a team owner or you have been assigned a shift, you have the option to swap this shift with another employee, request time off, or actually offer it back into the team, which publishes automatically into the open shift space. So moving on to the mobile experience for employees, it's pretty seamless and easy to navigate through, and unlike the desktop version, you do have schedule activity populate in your activity feed. So it's a familiar notification experience for current team users. All employees need to do is open up Teams on their mobile, click on More, which will allow you the option to select shifts. Now, like the desktop version, if shifts is something as you see as your main scheduling tool going forward, you can configure it to be pinned at the bottom of the app as well. So when you click on shifts, you are presented with the shifts in your team schedule in a calendar view. And as you can see, there are a number of different callouts. You can manage your shift requests. You can assign an open shift to yourself that still has availability and clock in and out if this has been set up. You can click on each available shift and request to work it, assign yourself it if it's an open shift, or swap or offer approved requests. The functionality in View is similar to the web and desktop client experience, so won't run you through all of those steps, but you kind of get an idea of the mobile experience here. One difference with the mobile experience is that employees have the ability to clock in and out. So once they push the play button, the app will capture the time that the employee logged in and at which location. So that gives a high-level view of shifts and the manager and employee user experience, but there are many ways in which you can enhance this experience. In terms of additional configuration, there are many options available to your organisation when considering shifts. You could leverage Power Automate to automate some of the approval processes, as well as support communications of any changes to your shifts. You could leverage Graph API to integrate with Outlook so that shifts are visible in your calendar. We've also seen some proof of concepts utilising Power BI to illustrate available desk space, which is going to be helpful if you have different teams in one shift and want to represent that through a floor plan or heat map, for example. I thought it would be helpful to mention the facilities bots as well, which does sit outside the realms of shifts, but it is an incredibly helpful and intuitive tool for your return to work offering. Available bots from Microsoft are the Facilities Bot and the Facilities Communicator Bot. The Facilities Bot allows end users to ask questions, reach out to team owners, and/or report an incident. Deploying the bot is more than likely going to increase employee engagement with your return to work initiatives, as users are more likely to engage with the bot for those regular, everyday sorts of questions. It's also going to decrease the cost per request and free up team owners from answering questions around return to work process and guidelines. You can also pin the bot to the app bar as well for ease of access and increased visibility. End users also have the option to report an incident, which is also sent to the associated team, and the manager can chat with the user and action accordingly. Another bot that you might find useful to deploy here is the Facilities Communicator app, which enables team owners to create and send messages intended for multiple teams or large number of employees over chat. This maximises the reach of the announcements, as you are communicating with your employees in the same space that they're already collaborating in. The team owners can create the message with relevant images, messages, URLs, as well as sharing the message with the relevant audience. When posting the message, they can select which team to obviously post this message to. So there are some limitations worth calling out at this point, but most seem to have been identified and picked up by Microsoft already. The most popular feature requests we've seen to Microsoft are Outlook integration. So at the moment, as I said a moment ago, you would have to use Graph API in order to integrate shifts into your Outlook. The ability to create recurring shifts, the current workaround being the copying of shifts, but admittedly, that's a fairly manual process for shifts that may differ each week. Adding shifts as a tab in Teams, hopefully this will be available soon to allow for that quicker access to Teams schedules from your actual team. And notifications of requests. So notifications work as you would expect in the mobile client, but are not available in the desktop client currently, which isn't overly helpful when a lot of us are now going to be using shifts for our office-based workers, but originally this might have not seemed like a pressing requirement for shift workers. And lastly, adding guest users to the schedule is on the backlog as well. So how can we support you? We're ready to help you set up shifts and other tools to ensure the safety of you and your employees upon your return to the office. What we do is run a series of discovery sessions working with your HR and OHS teams to review existing workforce management systems and collateral, as well as any other office logistics. Having identified your key business requirements, we would configure shifts to provide employees with a customized scheduling experience. We can also implement some of the advanced configuration that I mentioned a second ago to support business process. We would provide change management, both physical and virtual recommendations to help employees get back to work safely and ensuring awareness and adoption of the tools. And finally, we would run tailored training sessions for both managers and employees to empower them to use the applications effectively. It's worth noting as well that we can deliver these sessions virtually, face-to-face, or both. Penultimate slide here. So just calling out some other considerations that I think some organisations should be having a think about. These are definitely things that us at Engage Squared are starting to talk about to support our return to work strategy and our shifts rollout. Communications, whether that's by email, via your intranet or your social enterprise network, ensuring that employees know what's happening and when to keep them feeling reassured, motivated, and their expectations managed. The updating of current health and safety policies with new safety guidelines, so there's a clear reference point for all of your employees. Putting together a transition plan, so how are we going to get everyone back into the office? Do we want to run a pilot group first to identify any possible gaps in our strategy? And also the office itself, we all need to plan where employees are actually going to be able to physically work from. Do we want to be sectioning off areas with physical signage and start labelling them? We also need to ensure that our employees know how to use newly set up Teams meeting rooms and equipment so that employees know how to use them efficiently when they return to the office. And obviously any other Teams related configurational options, linking current COVID messaging from your intranet into Teams, or maybe tabbing incident forms, etc. Cool, so we've covered a lot today. This video is recorded and we'll be sharing the deck afterwards, so you can go back to reference any of the information I've discussed today. But if I can leave you with some key takeaways, firstly, this doesn't have to be a complex or expensive project. You can get shifts set up quickly, especially as you're probably 80% of the way there already with your current team set up. Secondly, it's not just about technology. as we've seen, there are plenty of other planning and physical activities to be considered by all organisations. And Engage Squared can support your organisation transition back to the office. And through supporting the implementation and change management of shifts, we can specifically help with the challenge of managing workforce scheduling in accordance with social distancing regulations and new OHS requirements. It really is a tough and unprecedented situation we all find ourselves in, and so utilising any existing and simple solutions is going to help make this transition so much smoother. Fantastic. So that's everything from me. I think we have a good 10 minutes or so left. So, Lauren, were there any questions from anybody on the call?
No unanswered questions at the moment.
Cool. All right, perfect. So thank you so much to everyone for attending, and to my lovely colleagues who organised this webinar, Lauren and Roy, and of course Dennis, for supporting the Q&A. As I said, we'll be sending this deck out now with associated links. Any questions, please do feel free to reach out to us on these contact details. Cool.
Sorry, we do have one question that's just come on in. And the question is, can a shift span across 2 days? For example, night shift, that's 10 p.m. to 5 a.m. the next day?
I think, Dennis, are you aware of that functionality? I don't think that is available at the moment, no.
I'll do a quick check right now, but I'm pretty sure you can have an overnight shift, if that makes sense. It's just a matter of, I'll just go in and create one. I haven't actually done that before, so I don't think there's a constraint though.
Perfect. Cool.
Other than that, no new questions.
Lovely. All right, I think we're good to wrap up then. Give everyone some time back. Stop sharing my screen, yeah, Lauren?
All right, thanks everyone. Hope you have a great day.
Thank you.